You are eyeing a used Harley thinking you found a steal, but here's the truth nobody tells you. Some of these bikes will bleed your wallet dry with one hidden fault buried where you would never think to look, while others are genuinely bulletproof and criminally underpriced for what they actually offer. 6 to avoid, 8 that are must-buys, 14 bikes, 1 honest breakdown. Let us get into it. Sliding dangerously into the number 6 spot, the deceptively cheap early twin 𝗕𝗄𝗧. We are starting with a bike that looks like a steal and bites back hard. Between 1999 and 2006, these were selling for $5,500, and today you can find them used for $4,500 to $6,500. Sounds tempting until you learn about the $800 repair waiting inside almost every single one. The engine is a twin 𝗕𝗄𝗧 cubic inch, roughly 1450cc V-twin, and buried behind the inner primary and cam cover sit spring-loaded chain tensioners that Harley itself basically admitted were a mistake, since they were scrapped entirely in 2007 for a hydraulic design. This generation replaced the Evolution engine specifically because Harley wanted more cooling capacity and a stiffer bottom end for the touring lineup. And on paper, the twin cam delivered exactly that. The irony is that the one component holding the whole cam chest together was the cheapest part in the entire assembly, a set of spring-loaded shoes riding directly on a timing chain under constant flex. What actually happens mechanically is that the tensioner shoes are made from a nylon composite that hardens and cracks with age and heat cycling. Once that shoe fragments, tiny pieces circulate through the oil system, which means a failed tensioner does not just cost you the tensioner, it can also mean a full oil change, filter, and sometimes a strainer cleaning on top of the base repair. Owners in forums nickname this the cam chest lottery because some bikes run past 80,000 miles with zero issue, while others fail before 20,000 miles, largely depending on how consistently the oil was changed and whether the bike sat unused for long stretches. Before you buy one, pop the cam chest inspection cover or pull the cam cover completely and check whether the tensioner shoes are worn or already upgraded to hydraulic. Also ask for maintenance records specifically around oil change intervals, because a twin 𝗕𝗄𝗧 with religious 3,000-mile oil changes is a completely different risk profile than one that sat for a decade in a barn. If the seller suddenly gets nervous about that request, walk away. Harley eventually got this exact bloodline right, and a later chapter of it shows up further down this list as a genuine must-buy. So keep that in mind as we count down. Imagine standing in front of a bike you want, the seller swearing it's perfect. That's where riders overpay by thousands on a $10,000 bike. Our buyer's kit tells you what it's really worth, your fair price, and when to walk away. A wrong bike costs thousands. This kit, just $49. The easiest money you'll ever save. Scan the QR on the right or tap the link in the description. Let's get that bike you've always wanted for even cheaper. But the tensioner is not even the worst offender waiting on this list. Up next is a bike from an era so notoriously rough that Harley's own reputation nearly did not survive it. Limping grimly into the number 5 spot, the notoriously leaky AMF era shovelhead electric glide. Now we go back to 1978 through 1981, an era when American Machine and Foundry owned Harley and quality control was, let us say, creatively interpreted. The shovelhead engine displaces either 74 or 80 cubic inch, landing around 1,200 to 1,340 cc, air-cooled V-twin, and it has one very specific personality flaw. This was genuinely one of the darkest periods in Harley's manufacturing history, a stretch when labor disputes, budget cuts, and rushed assembly lines collided at the exact same time the company was trying to compete with increasingly polished Japanese imports. AMF famously slashed quality inspection stations to speed up production, and the shovelhead engine, which had already been in production since 1966, absorbed the brunt of those shortcuts. The valve guides and base gaskets sitting at the cylinder, heads and bases, were essentially designed to weep oil onto your garage floor. Riders from this era joke that a shovelhead is not leaking oil, it is marking its territory, but that humor gets expensive fast. Repair cost lands at $1,500 against an original price of $5,200 to $6,800, and used units today are floating between $3,800 and $5,200. Do the math, and a third of what you are paying could quite literally drip back out through the gaskets. Check the cylinder base and head joints for active oil pooling, and watch the exhaust on cold startup for excessive blue smoke, which usually signals worn valve guide seals letting oil into the combustion chamber. It is also worth checking the kickstand area and rear tire for oil residue, since a slow weep often ends up flung across the back of the bike after a highway run. Harley did not put this issue to rest until 1984 with the introduction of the Evolution engine, an entirely redesigned top end with aluminum heads and cylinders that finally sealed properly under real-world heat. If the shovel head has you rattled, hang tight, because the bike that fixed this exact headache is coming up later, and it might be one of the smartest entry buys on this entire list. Before we keep counting down, hit that subscribe button right now, because we cover the exact mechanical skeletons hiding inside famous motorcycles every single week. And subscribing is the only thing that makes sure this content keeps landing in front of you. If the shovel head has you rattled, hang tight, because the bike that fixed this exact headache is coming up later, and it might be one of the smartest entry buys on this entire list. Sneaking quietly into the number 4 spot, the surprisingly fragile early street glide. This one hurts more because we are not talking about some dusty 70s relic. We are talking about a $14,000 motorcycle from 2014 and 2016. The high-output twin Cam 103 cubic inch, roughly 1690 cc, V-twin is a serious engine, genuinely one of the strongest touring motors Harley had built up to that point, putting down noticeably more torque than the standard 103 found in lower trims. The problem sits above that great engine in a hydraulic clutch master cylinder on the handlebars paired with a slave actuator setup tucked behind the right side transmission cover near the exhaust collector, and that pairing developed a mind of its own. What made this particularly frustrating for owners is that the failure was not always catastrophic. It was often gradual. Repair cost is only $600, which sounds cheap until you see the used price band sitting at $12,500 to $15,500 against an original sticker price of $20,399 to $24,199 and an inconsistent clutch feel on a bike. This size is genuinely unnerving in traffic, especially given the street glide's substantial weight and the low-speed maneuvering required around parking lots and gas stations. Test the friction zone consistency at the clutch lever and check around the right side transmission cover for fluid weeping, paying close attention to the area just behind the exhaust collector, where fluid tends to pool first. Up next is a bike Harley built specifically to lure in younger riders, and the results were a little more complicated than they hoped. Stumbling shackily into the number 3 spot, the electrically temperamental Street 500 and 750. Between 2015 and 2018, Harley tried something different with a smaller liquid-cooled platform, and it mostly worked except for one electrical gremlin. The Revolution X engine comes in 30 or 45 cubic inch, which is 494 or 749 cc, liquid-cooled V-twin, and this was actually a significant departure for Harley, since it was designed and partly assembled overseas to hit a genuinely accessible price point for new riders. That accessibility came with growing pains. The weak link sits near the front frame down tube, where the voltage regulator and wiring harness love to cause charging issues right when you need the bike most, often showing up as flickering dash lights, a battery that will not hold charge overnight, or in worst cases, a bike that simply will not start after sitting for a few days. Repair cost is $400. Original price started at $6,799 for the 500 and $7,499 for the 750, and the used market has them today at $3,200 to $4,800, which for a genuinely modern, liquid-cooled, fuel-injected Harley is a remarkably low buy-in point once the electrical gremlin is sorted. Grab a multimeter and inspect charging output at the battery terminals under load before you commit. ideally with the headlight and signals running to simulate real-world electrical draw. Harley cleaned this up in 2019 with revised electrical grounding, and later production bikes are considered notably more dependable on this exact point. Next up is a growling noise that will make you paranoid every time you sit at a red light in neutral. Creeping ominously into the number 2 spot, the deceptively growling early twin 𝗕𝗨𝗬𝗘𝗥𝗧. The twin cam family strikes again between 2007 and 2009, this time with the 96 cubic inch version, roughly 1584 cc, which Harley introduced specifically to bump torque and displacement across the touring and Softail lineups after retiring the 88. The weak point lives inside the primary drive housing, where the inner primary bearing wears out and announces itself with a growling noise in neutral once the clutch is released. What is particularly sneaky about this fault is that it often does not affect how the bike rides at all in the early stages. The engine pulls fine, the clutch engages fine, and the only symptom is that unmistakable growl sitting in the background at idle, which a lot of buyers mistake for normal mechanical noise on an air-cooled twin, especially if they are coming from a quieter modern bike and simply do not know what a healthy Harley idle sounds like. Repair cost is $900, original price was $7,500, and the used price band today runs $6,500 to $8,500. That is real money for a bearing Harley quietly upgraded to heavy-duty specs in 2010, using a revised bearing race designed to handle higher radial load over a longer service interval. Sit on the bike, put it in neutral, release the clutch, and listen. Ideally with the engine warmed up, since the noise tends to be more pronounced once the oil has thinned out at operating temperature. Growling means you should be negotiating hard or walking away entirely. And if you do proceed with a growling example, budget for the repair immediately, rather than waiting, since ignoring a failing primary bearing long enough can eventually damage the primary housing itself. And now we arrive at the single scariest bike on this entire avoid list. One so aggressive looking that buyers forget to check the part holding its whole rear end together. Crashing menacingly into the number 1 spot, the flawed FXDR 114. This thing looks like a drag bike that escaped from a showroom floor, and between 2019 and 2020, it mostly is one. Harley built the FXDR specifically to chase a younger, more performance-obsessed buyer, wrapping a genuinely aggressive silhouette around the largest Softail-based engine of its time. The Milwaukee 8 114 cubic inch 1868 cc V-twin is a genuinely strong engine. But the problem is not the engine at all. The FXDR uses a monoshock rear end paired with an aluminum swing arm designed to shave weight, and the pivot alignment tolerances on that swing arm proved tighter than Harley's own production line could consistently hold, leading to premature wear at the isolator and occasional handling quirks under hard acceleration. Repair cost is $850. Original price was $12,500, and used units sell for $11,000 to $13,800. Check the rear wheel alignment marks and inspect the pulley cush drive for play. And while you are at it, take the bike for a firm test ride and pay attention to any vague or wandering feeling under hard throttle, since that is often the first real-world symptom owners report. Here is the truly frustrating part. Harley discontinued the FXDR after 2020, meaning if you buy an unmaintained unit, you will have to rely on high-performance aftermarket isolator upgrades to permanently align that rear end yourself, since Harley never issued a factory revision before pulling the model. Later cush drive and isolator components did improve things for owners willing to chase the fix, but it is not something you can simply count on rolling off a showroom floor already solved. Okay, that is 6 Harleys that will empty your wallet faster than a bad tank of gas. But Harley did not spend over a century building motorcycles just to get everything wrong. So let us flip the script completely and count down 8 that are genuine must-buys. Rolling confidently into the number 8 spot, the Sportster Iron 8 83. Between 2010 and 2022, this bike quietly became the smartest entry point in the whole lineup. The engine is an Evolution 54 cubic inch, 883 cc V-twin And the standout feature is the rubber-mounted crankcases sitting between the engine and frame. What makes the 𝗕𝗨𝗬𝗘𝗧𝗢 so beloved among longtime Harley mechanics is how few genuinely unique failure points it has compared to the bigger touring bikes. The blacked-out styling was also a deliberate move by Harley to attract a younger, more urban buyer in the early 2010s. And it worked well enough that the Iron became something of a gateway bike for an entire generation of new riders. Maintenance runs around $350, original price was $6,800, and used examples sell for $5,500 to $7,800. Picture it, you buy the bike, it looked clean, it sounded great. 3 weeks later, the bills start, a worn chain, tired forks, a service the seller never mentioned. That's thousands gone on a bike you already paid full price for. Our inspection checklist catches every one of those before you pay, walking the bike like a mechanic. Spend $49 now or lose thousands later. Scan the QR on the right or tap the link in the description. Don't let a hidden problem drain your wallet. Those rubber mounts isolate vibration from the frame, giving you the classic V-twin rumble without shaking your fillings loose, a detail that genuinely surprises new owners coming from smaller, harsher-feeling standard motorcycles. Check the rubber isolators for dry rotting or excessive sag, since age is really the only enemy here. And it is worth noting that replacement isolators are inexpensive and widely available, meaning even a worn set is a minor fix rather than a deal breaker. If you thought that was a solid buy, wait until you hear about the touring bike that basically refuses to die, no matter how many miles get piled onto it. Cruising reliably into the number 7 spot, the endlessly overbuilt Road King. Spanning 1994 through 2006, this bike ran both the Evolution and twin cam 88 and 96 engines, from 1,340 to 1,450 cubic centimeters. The standout is the Timken left side crank bearing inside the crankcase, a genuinely overbuilt piece of engineering that has become something of a legend among long-distance touring riders. The Road King's real strength is its sheer simplicity relative to later touring models. Fewer fairings, fewer electronic systems, and a stripped-down windshield setup mean there is genuinely less to go wrong compared to a fully loaded Ultra Classic. Maintenance sits at $400, original price was $7,200, and used examples run $6,000 to $8,500. Check the primary chain tensioner wear and pull the service logs, because a well-documented Road King is basically a mechanical time capsule, and it is genuinely common to find examples well past 100,000 miles still running their original bottom end. Quick favor before we continue. If this list is genuinely changing what you are shopping for, drop a comment telling us which bike on this list you would actually buy, because we read every single one and it shapes what we cover next. Gliding smoothly into the number 6 spot, the beautifully minimalist Road King Special. This is the modern evolution of everything the original Road King got right, running between 2020 and 2024. The Milwaukee 8 114 cubic inch, 1,868 cubic centimeters, V-twin sits under a minimalist analog chassis setup at the front fork triple trees. Harley deliberately stripped this trim back compared to the touchscreen-loaded Street Glide and Road Glide, giving riders who prefer analog gauges and a simpler dash a genuinely modern engine platform without the complexity of a large infotainment system. That decision has made the Road King Special something of a favorite among riders who want the reliability gains of the Milwaukee 8 without the added electronics to eventually maintain or replace. Maintenance sits at $450. Original price started at $22,009, $199 to $23,009, $199, and used examples today sell for $16,000 to $20,500. Inspect the front fork seals for leaks or pitting before you buy, and check that the analog gauge cluster is free of condensation, since that is usually the first sign of a compromised seal anywhere nearby. Coming up is a Softail so comfortable you will forget it is even a cruiser, thanks to one hidden piece of suspension nobody expects to find under that seat. Settling comfortably into the number 5 spot, the cleverly disguised Heritage Softail Classic. Running from 2018 through 2024, this bike hides a genuinely clever trick underneath its classic looks. The Milwaukee 8 114 cubic inch 1868cc V-twin sits above a hidden underseat monoshock tucked beneath the rider saddle, a piece of engineering that lets the bike keep its old-school hardtail silhouette while actually riding far more comfortably than the vintage bikes it visually pays tribute to. This particular trick matters because the Heritage Softail Classic is styled to look almost identical to Harley's classic hardtail cruisers from decades earlier, complete with the deeply balanced fenders and wide white wall-style tires many buyers associate with vintage Harleys. Hiding a proper modern shock underneath all of that retro styling means owners get genuine long-ride comfort without sacrificing an ounce of the classic look. Maintenance is $420. Original price was $17,000, and used units currently sell for $14,500 to $19,000. Test the rear preload adjuster knob before purchase to confirm the suspension is functioning as intended, since a stiff or unresponsive adjuster usually points to a shock nearing the end of its service life. Next up is a Sportster, so mechanically simple, it practically dares you to break it, and good luck actually managing that. Coasting effortlessly into the number 4 spot, the Sportster 1200. Between 1988 and 2003, this bike proved that simple parts age better than fancy ones. The engine is an Evolution 73.2 cubic inch, 1200cc V-twin, and the highlight is simple gear-driven cams paired with a self-adjusting hydraulic lifter valve train that requires 0 valve lash adjustments over the life of the engine. This generation of Sportster is often cited by independent mechanics as one of the easiest motorcycles in existence to service without any specialized tools, since the entire valve train uses a genuinely forgiving hydraulic setup with none of the finicky manual adjustments found on older, solid lifter iron head engines. That simplicity means a competent home mechanic with a basic toolkit can realistically maintain this bike for its entire service life without ever visiting a dealership. Maintenance is only $250, original price was $4,500, and used examples today go for $3,500 to $5,500. Check the primary case for adjuster wear, and that is really all there is to it, which frankly explains why this exact generation still shows up so frequently at swap meets and independent shops decades after production ended. Up next is a big touring machine from 2013 that finally got the cam chest right after years of Harley fumbling it. Charging confidently into the number 3 spot, the finally fixed 𝗕𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 Ultra Classic. This 2013 model year is the direct answer to everything that went wrong earlier on this list. The twin cam 103 cubic inch, 1690 cubic inches, 1690. Beyond the cam chest fix, this particular model year sits right in the sweet spot of the twin cam's development, benefiting from over a decade of running production refinement while still predating the added complexity of the later Milwaukee 8 infotainment packages. Maintenance is $400, original price was $12,000, and used units sell for $10,000 to $13,500. Verify inner primary bearing play before buying, just to be thorough, though this platform is about as sorted as Harley gets, and most inspection issues at this point come down to normal wear items rather than any known systemic fault. Coming up next is a modern street glide with an oil pump upgrade that quietly fixed a headache riders had been complaining about for years. Powering dependably into the number 2 spot, the modernized street glide. Running from 2020 through 2024, this bike comes with the Milwaukee 8 107 or 114 cubic inch, which is 1,753 or 1,868 cubic centimeters. The standout is an updated oil pump design sitting in the lower crankcase, addressing an earlier generation complaint around oil transfer between the crankcase and oil tank on cold starts. This particular generation also benefits from Harley's steadily improving infotainment and connectivity features, giving riders genuinely useful navigation and audio integration without the early growing pains that plagued the very first touchscreen-equipped touring bikes several years earlier. Combined with the fixed oil pump, this generation of Street Glide is widely regarded as one of the most dependable large touring Harleys currently available on the used market. Maintenance is $450, original price was $19,000, and used examples currently run $16,500 to $21,000. Check engine sump levels and confirm oil transfer issues are resolved, which on this generation, they genuinely are, making this one of the lowest risk big touring purchases on this entire list. Before we get to number one, if this list has saved you from a bad purchase or pointed you toward a genuinely great one, hit that like button right now, since it costs you nothing and tells us to keep making buyer's guides exactly like this one. Landing triumphantly into the number one spot, the unmistakably iconic Fat Boy 114. We close with the most iconic silhouette in the entire Harley lineup, running from 2018 through 2024. The Milwaukee 8 114 cubic inch, 1,868 cubic centimeters, V-twin sits beneath the solid Latester disc wheels at the front and rear axles, the exact wheels that made this bike instantly recognizable from a block away since its original debut decades earlier. The Fat Boy's solid disc wheel design was originally born out of styling rather than performance, but it has become one of the most enduring visual signatures in all of motorcycling, instantly associated with Harley's cruiser lineup more than almost any other single design element the company has ever produced. Pairing that legendary look with the thoroughly modern and well-proven Milwaukee 8 engine gives this generation of Fat Boy a rare combination of iconic styling and genuine mechanical confidence. Maintenance runs $400, original price was $17,500, and used units today sell for $15,000 to $19,500. Inspect the wide front tire for uneven cupping wear, since the front end's mass and wheel design puts slightly different stress patterns on the front tire compared to a standard spoked wheel setup. And if it checks out, you are looking at one of the most complete, most solid Harleys money can buy right now. 6 Harleys that will quietly drain your wallet the moment you stop paying attention, and 8 that will run for decades if you just know where to look before you hand over the cash. That is the whole game with these bikes. Some of you are about to walk into a dealership or a private sale armed with information the seller was hoping you would never ask about. Others of you just found out the bike sitting in your own garage is actually one of the safest used Harleys money can buy. Either way, that is a win. But knowing which bike to avoid is only half the job. Click on the next video in order to keep the ride going. Like this video and don't forget to subscribe.